Hey everyone, it is time for episode number 48 of Klugula Reads his Classics, inching slowly toward that 50 episode milestone. Rather exciting for you, for me, for all of us. Anyway, so yesterday we started up with the George, Frank, and Liza mini saga, a series of short, absurd stories I wrote in high school at around age 16. So we read chapters 1, 2, and 3. Today we'll be doing 4, 5, 6, and 7. Four big chapters in this fascinating series. So let's get right into it, shall we? George, Frank, and Liza, Part 4, the fourth chapter in a series of strange and frightening stories of terror and scares and scary things. Frank and Liza are going to go on a date without their old friend, Candace. Frank is not tired very much because he slept with Liza and they aren't tired and they are going to Joe's over on 45th and a half Street. George wants to go out with Frank and Liza, but he's one of the grotesque, hungry, walking, living dead. Frank and Liza are leaving the house that they were being naughty in. George did not see the victims leave the house. He is still looking for a way in the house to eat something and then burp some gross burps of the dead. Frank and Liza are gone now because they are hungry too. George is inside. Will Frank and Liza be naughty at Joe's on 45th and a half Street? The end of part 4. Again, I don't remember what questions would have been asked at this time, but there's a new character named Candace, and that certainly raises some questions, right? George, Frank, and Liza, Part 5. Even more of the famous story of death and destruction and other stuff. George is inside the house that Frank and Liza left a few minutes ago, and he is mad because he is looking in the refrigerator and there is no food in the refrigerator that he is looking in, and so he is mad. Frank and Liza are at Joe's on 45th and a half Street. They have ordered some chili and have specifically asked the food to be cooked in a crock pot and to be cooked by one of their old friends, George. I think that's important. I do remember reading it in that manner. Mary has just entered the place that Frank and Liza are in. They got their chili 10 minutes ago. The manager came out to see Frank and Liza because to tell them that the cook George is one of the cooking grotesque hungry walking living dead. The end of part 5. The chili pot thinkins. It's terrible. Oh, and now we're back into handwriting rather than typed up, so this must have been just done on the spot. It didn't have time to get to a typewriter or a computer. George, Frank, and Liza, Part 6. Mary comes forth with the truth. Last. Frank and Liza are done eating the chili that wasn't cooked by the cook George that used to work at Joe's on 45th and a half Street, and George is one of the unemployed cooking grotesque hungry walking living dead. Frank and Liza will go home. Frank doesn't feel like being naughty because he is tired, and he has gas from the chili that George didn't cook. George is full from eating the refrigerator. He hears a car on the driveway out by the lawn with yellow grass and dead bugs and stuff. He will hide from the sound that scares him and the dark. Frank feels better because he stopped at a mini-mart to dump a load that made him feel sick from the chili that wasn't cooked by the cook George at Joe's on 45th and a half Street. George doesn't have to dump because he hath done it earlier. Frank and Liza are home safe from the attack of the killer katydids. The end of part 6. So much drama. So much drama. Okay. And our final chapter for today's installment. George, Frank, and Liza, Part 7. The seventh part to George, Frank, and Liza. Part 7 to George, Frank, and Liza. George, Frank, and Liza, the seventh part. George is still hiding in the closet because Frank and Liza are in the house now that George is hiding in because he got scared and he was next to the closet, so he opened it and got in the closet because Frank and Liza were home from Joe's on 45th and a half Street from eating chili. George is scared of Frank and Liza. The doorbell will ring, and it will startle Frank and Liza because they weren't expecting the doorbell to ring because they just got home and they don't know that George is one of the hiding, unemployed, cooking, grotesque, hungry, walking, living dead, and so they are scared. Frank is running to the door to see who rang the doorbell to the house that has the closet that George is hiding in. Liza is at Frank's side because there's a song called Stand By Your Man, and she is very religious because her parents were Catholic and she is their daughter, and so she is Catholic like her parents who are Catholic. The end of part 7. Tomorrow, We will move into chapter 8 and beyond of George, Frank, and Liza, this lovely and entertaining, absurd series of tales I wrote in high school, much to the delight or disgust of my fellow classmates daily in the lunchroom. So if you are interested, you can subscribe below, you can like, comment, share, and until I return tomorrow for episode number 49, can you believe it? Can I get an amen? Isn't that exciting? I will end with the usual quadruple S. Stay safe, stay smart, stay secure, stay well stocked. I'll see you guys tomorrow.